This presentation will give you information about the linguistics component of the Psychology, Philosophy, and Linguistics degree, which is often referred to as the PPL degree. My name is Mary Dalrymple, and I'm Professor of Syntax in the Faculty of Linguistics, Philology, and Phonetics at Oxford, and also the admissions coordinator for the PPL degree. Very few of you will have done linguistics in school, so we don't expect people beginning the PPL degree to already have a strong background in linguistics. You may have heard the term linguist used in different ways, and in fact there are two senses of the term linguist. It's used as a term for someone who speaks a lot of languages, and it's also used to refer to someone who studies or does research in linguistics. We're interested in the second sense. We expect people on the PPL degree to have a strong interest in human language, but not necessarily a knowledge of lots of languages. There are linguists in the second sense who know a lot of languages, but there's also monolingual linguists in the second sense. There are a number of different subfields of linguistics, and in the first year of the course, you would have the opportunity to learn about all of them. Phonetics is the study of the sounds of human language. Phonology is the study of the sound patterns in language. Morphology is the study of the structure of words. Syntax is the study of the structure of sentences. And semantics is the study of meaning and how it's expressed in human languages. There are also subfields of linguistics that are closely related to other disciplines. So, for example, psycholinguistics is at the intersection of psychology and linguistics. It's the study of psychological aspects of language and language use. Sociolinguistics is at the intersection of sociology and linguistics. It's the study of language in social context. Historical linguistics is the study of how language changes over time. It's not a core part of the PPL degree, but there is an opportunity to study historical linguistics if you're interested in that. One of the goals of linguistics is to uncover the rules of language, and one of the main questions that's relevant in language acquisition is how children acquire rules. Do children just imitate the speakers that they hear around them, or do they try to formulate rules which they then apply to the forms that they're learning? Jean Berko-Gleason was one of the first to explore this question in the 1950s, when she asked whether children have rules for forming new words that they had never seen before, or if they're just repeating forms that they hear adult speakers use. The particular focus of her research was word formation in English. So let's look at plural formation, and this is something you may never have actually realized is a rule for you. In English, we have a distinction between singular forms that refer to one thing and plural forms that refer to more than one thing. So one rock, more than one is rocks. You might never have thought about this before, but there are actually slightly different ways of forming the plural depending on the pronunciation of the singular form. If the form ends in a sound like k, as rock, we add s. So for singular rock, we have plural rocks with s. If the form ends in a sound like oi, we add z. So for singular boy, we have plural boys. If the form ends in s, as for example house, we add uz. So for singular house, we have plural houses. The rules are actually slightly more complicated than that, and there are irregular forms, but that's the basic pattern. So how can we investigate what children are doing? Well, Jean Berko-Gleason realized that she could present children with a new word that they have never heard before because it's a made-up form. She made drawings like the one that you see here and told children, this is a wug. The question is, what plural form will they produce? They won't produce the form based on what they've heard adults say because this is a made-up form and they will have never heard an adult produce this form before. The next picture she showed them looked like this, and the children had to fill in the blank. So now there's another one. There are two of them. There are two, and in the blank, you'll have the plural form. And even very young children, she found, produced wugs, conforming to the rule, even though they've never heard this form before. So the language of even very young children is rule-governed, and that was one of the earliest demonstrations of that. We usually process language without being aware of it. So, for example, you're probably not consciously aware of how you're processing what I'm saying to you now. But sometimes we become consciously aware of how we're processing language, and that happens when we've made a wrong guess about the structure of a sentence and have to reprocess it. These are called garden path sentences, since the structure of the sentence leads us up the garden path to an incorrect conclusion, and we have to revise the structure that we've built up midway through the sentence. In the next slide, I'm going to show you some garden path sentences, and I want you to try to think about what's happening, how you're processing the sentence, and see if you can introspect about what's going on. I'm going to let you read the sentence first because sometimes intonation can give us cues about the structure of these sentences. So the garden path effect can actually be stronger for written sentences than for spoken sentences because we have fewer cues about the structure. Here's the first one. While Philip was washing, the dishes crashed on the floor. You probably had difficulty after dishes, since you assumed that the dishes was the object of the verb washing, so the sentence started out, while Philip was washing the dishes. But then when you encountered crashed, you realized you couldn't integrate that into the assumptions you had made about the structure that you had built so far, and you had to go back and reinterpret washing as not having an object. So it starts out, while Philip was washing, and the dishes is then the subject of crashed. Here's the next example. He who cooks ducks out of the washing up. For this one, I guess you had difficulty after ducks, since you assumed that the subject of this sentence was he who cooks ducks. It's similar in a way to the first sentence, but then you couldn't make sense of out coming at that point in the sentence. You had to go back and reinterpret the subject as he who cooks, and then ducks is actually the main verb of the sentence. He ducks out of the washing up. One more. The florist sent the bouquet of flowers was very flattered. For this one, you probably had difficulty after flowers, since you may have assumed that the sentence should end at flowers, that the florist sent the bouquet of flowers was the complete sentence, and you then couldn't integrate was into that structure. Here, in fact, the subject is the florist sent the bouquet of flowers. In other words, the florist who was sent the bouquet of flowers. And so it's the florist who was sent the bouquet of flowers who was very flattered. In your linguistics degree, you would learn how to analyze the structure of these sentences and why there are several possible analyses of the first part of the sentence. You could look into why some kinds of ambiguity but not others give rise to garden path effects, what the influence of intonation is, and what role the meanings of the parts of the sentence play in building up the meaning of the sentence and how meaning is processed. Let's now talk about the structure of the degree. If you apply to the PPL degree at Oxford, you would apply to study 2 of the 3 subjects. You don't study all 3 subjects from the beginning. So if you're interested in a PPL degree with a linguistics component, you would apply for either a psychology and linguistics path or the philosophy and linguistics path. You may also be interested in hearing about our other Oxford degree that involves linguistics, and that is our Modern Languages and Linguistics degree, where you would study a modern European language with linguistics, so French and linguistics, German and linguistics, modern Greek and linguistics, Italian and linguistics, Portuguese and linguistics, Russian and linguistics, or Spanish and linguistics. It's also possible to do 3 of these languages from beginner's level, so you can do beginner's modern Greek, beginner's Italian, or beginner's Portuguese with linguistics. This is possible if you haven't done the languages in school, but there are varying requirements for those languages about work that you have to do in the summer before beginning the degree, and you would have to check the admissions website for more information on that. I also want to point out that not all colleges admit for all combinations. So this is true both for PPL or for the Modern Languages and Linguistics degree. The admissions website has information about which colleges admit for which combinations. We have 2 world-class laboratory facilities at Oxford, and these would be available to you in your work for the PPL degree. The phonetics laboratory studies the sounds of language, and some of the research topics that they've studied recently are acoustic modeling of sound change, how the sounds of language change over time. Long-range co-articulation, that means how sounds in one syllable influence the pronunciation of sounds in another syllable. Intonation, magnetic resonance imaging and the moving vocal tract, speech rhythm, and other topics as well. There's more information on the website, which you see there, fon.ox.ac.uk. Our other laboratory is the Laboratory for Language in the Brain, which studies language processing. Some of the research topics that are studied in that laboratory are how differences in the length of consonants and vowels are detected and processed in the brain, how differences in tonal accent affect the processing of speech, how morphophonological principles can be used in a speech recognition system, and more. Again, there's more information on the website brainlab.clp.ox.ac.uk. The linguistics part of the first year of the PPL course is the Linguistics Foundation course, which goes for 2 terms, and there is 1 examination paper in linguistics at the end of the second term. This covers all but one of the areas that I listed at the beginning of the presentation and consists of 3 parts. General linguistics, which covers foundations of linguistics, semantics and pragmatics, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, and historical linguistics, but historical linguistics is covered in the 3rd term of study. It's a part of the first-year examinations for students doing the Modern Languages and Linguistics degree. PPL students are welcome to attend the historical linguistics lectures, but they're not examined in historical linguistics. The other 2 parts of the course are phonetics and phonology, which covers the sounds and sound patterns of human language, and grammatical analysis, which covers the structure of words and sentences. Besides your work in linguistics and either psychology or philosophy, you will take a 3rd course in your first year. For most students, this is Introduction to Probability and Statistics. This is required if you're doing the psychology and linguistics path, and it's the default for philosophy and linguistics because familiarity with statistics is required for more quantitative work in linguistics. After the first year, there's some flexibility. You can do a 50-50 split between linguistics options and your options in either psychology or philosophy, or you can do more of one or the other subject. You can also do all 3 subjects, linguistics, psychology, and philosophy, though this is not very common. Most students stick with the 2 subjects that they do in their first year. The combinations aren't unrestricted, but you do have the option of doing more linguistics or more psychology or more philosophy. Here's a partial list of the specialist papers that you can do after your first year. You can concentrate on one of the sub-areas of linguistics, so for example, phonetics and phonology, syntax, semantics, psycholinguistics, sociolinguistics, or historical linguistics, and do an exam paper in that area at the end of the course. You can also do an independent project or a thesis in the area that you choose. There's more information on the linguistics website, www.ling-phil.ox.ac.uk/undergraduate. For your admissions application, you'll need to register for the TSA admissions test by the October deadline. There's more information on this on the admissions pages. There is no longer a separate linguistics admissions test. There are no required subjects at A-level, but some work in analytical subjects, including maths and sciences, is a good foundation for the work for this degree. The standard offer condition is A*AA or equivalent. Again, there's more information on the admissions website. If you'd like to learn more about any of these areas of linguistics, I recommend that you look at the linguistics reading list for prelims first-year linguistics. This is on the Oxford Linguistics website, so you can go to our linguistics website and then click through current students to undergraduate students, and then you'll see a link for the prelims reading list. Or you can go directly to www.ling-phil.ox.ac.uk/undergraduate/prelims-reading-list. Thank you for listening. We're looking forward to taking your questions at the Open Day virtual meeting.